Hey everyone, with Zendikar Rising having its official release this past weekend, I thought we would take a moment to look at what I consider to be some of the best commander cards in the set. So here we go. Now this first section is going to be kind of an honorable mentions, and it's going to include all of our expeditions. They're not technically in the set Zendikar Rising, so I don't want to cover them along with the cards in the set, but if you are able to pick up a collector or a set booster box, you're going to be really happy with grabbing just about any of these. Now we're also going to be grouping all of the pathways up here together. I think the pathways are really cool, and if you're running a 2-color deck, you're going to be really happy to have any of these in place of a basic land. And to those people who say, oh, but you can't fetch it, let me ask you the one question: why would you want to fetch one of these? Alright, and with that stuff out of the way, we can move right into what I believe to be the best commander card in the set. That's right, 1 minute into the video, and I'm giving you guys the goods. And here it is. Lithoform Engine, the 4-mana legendary artifact. This thing is crazy, giving us the ability to pay 2 and tap it, and we can copy target activated or triggered ability. We can pay 3 and copy target instant or sorcery spell, or we can even pay 4 and copy targeted permanent spell we control. Now this thing is just crazy, and it falls right into the trap of Wizards printing cards that are just better than other cards. And the first 2 I came up with was Psionic Resonator and Mirror Pool. Now these things alone, they're pretty good, but why would you play these things if you can play the Lithoform Engine? Really good card. I see it being played in a lot of decks. Moving along, we have another legendary artifact to talk about. We have the 5-mana Forsaken Monument. This thing, when you play it, it's going to give your colorless creatures +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, you get to add an additional colorless. And the bonus cherry on top of whenever you cast a colorless spell, you get to gain 2 life. Now this thing is just going to slot immediately into any colorless deck. I feel like I'm not going out of the way by calling this a staple of a colorless deck. You're going to want this card. And if you were lucky enough to pull a Cavern of Souls or an Ancient Tomb from those collectors or booster boxes earlier, you're already on your way to a really nice colorless deck. Alright, so now we're ready to move on to our mono colors, and we're going to start with white. White brings us a few things, and the first thing I want to cover is Undo Inversion, the big 8-mana board wipe. This thing is going to cost you 6 colorless and 2 white, and it reads destroy all non-land permanents. Now white already has access to quite a few board wipes, and I think this is going to go right with the other ones, but it has the bonus of being able to flip into Undo Sky Runes. Now, this is just a land that comes in tapped, but I think we would all be lying to ourselves if we haven't had that game where we would indeed take that tapped mana. So, early game, this isn't going to kill you if you draw it, and then late game, it does have the big board wipe potential. I do feel like you're going to see this card. Alright, the last 2 cards I want to cover in white are Angel of Destiny and Archon of Emeria. These cards I don't feel like are very good, but they are going to find a spot somewhere in some decks. The Angel of Destiny is a 5-mana 2/6 flying double strike that reads, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. It also reads, at the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 more life than your starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny attacked this turn loses the game. So you're going to find this in one of those weird white life gain decks as an alternate win condition. I don't think it's very good, but people are going to be trying it out. I'm more sure that you're going to see a little bit of Archon of Emeria, the 3-mana 2/3 flyer. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Just a solid hate bear. Alright, so moving right along into red, we have Morag, Fury of Akum. This guy is a solid runner-up in the best commander card in the set, in my opinion. He is a big 6/6 that's going to cost you 4 colorless and 2 red, and he reads, each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. But its real meat and potatoes comes from its landfall ability. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So there are a lot of red decks out there that are just working off of those extra combat steps, and if you're one of those Atali players that are doing that kind of thing, just congratulations. This card's awesome. Next we have Agadem Awakening. It's the 3 mana at instant speed that lets you put any number of cards from your hand onto the bottom of your library. Then you get to draw that many cards +1. This is really good. Red is always looking for card draw, and even though this only flips into a tapped land, I don't think you're ever looking to play it for that. You're just looking to get these cards drawn. And when you compare this to something like Wheel of Fortune, it's pretty comparable, and considering that the price difference is going to save you at least a couple $100, I think this card is definitely good enough to make the cut. Alright, our last card in red is Leyline Tyrant, the 4 mana 4/4 dragon. It comes along with a few unique abilities, and you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases in. And then when Leyline Tyrant dies, you may pay any amount of red. When you do, it deals that much damage to any target. Basically, this guy is going to act like a red piggy bank for future turns. Just toss any red mana you're not going to spend in there on him, and he's just going to keep building it up till you can either spend it on something or until he gets removed, and then you can pay that much and just nuke down something. I think he's definitely going to make a spot in many 99s. Alright, we're getting there, everybody. We're moving right into black, and we're starting with Agadem's Awakening, the big sorcery that's going to cost you 3 black and X, and it reads, return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different converted mana cost, X or less. So if you spend 6 mana on this thing, 3 and 3 black, you're going to get back a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a 3-drop creature onto the battlefield. Now, any other color besides black, this obviously isn't very good, and even in black, it's not the best. But what makes this card playable, in my opinion, is that it flips into the Agadem, the Undercrypt. Now, this is a lot better than the other cards that we've gone over because it has the ability that you can pay 3 life and it does not enter tapped. So if you draw this early game, you can still play it, 3 life, no big deal. Commander players know that your life is a resource, so this is really, really good in my opinion. So the last card I want to cover in black I don't think is very good. I'm just trying to cover my bases here because you might see this card played, is Scourge of the Skyclaves. I think this guy is going to fill a similar role to Angel of Destiny in white, and you're going to see him in some kind of like weird 1-turn TKO type build. Like I said, I don't think it's very good. I don't think you're going to see a lot of it, but people are going to be trying it out since it is new. Alright, trying to speed things up here a little bit, we're going to move right into blue with Seagate Restoration, the big flip sorcery. It's going to cost you 4 and 3 blue, and one side is going to let you draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand +1, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. On the back side, you can play it as a land, but you have the option to pay 3 life, and it comes in untapped. Being able to draw cards late game is really good, and being able to play this untapped early game is also really good. So this definitely makes the cut in a 99. Then we have Jace Mirror Mage. Jace is going to cost you 1 and 2 blue to get him onto the battlefield, but you're almost always going to want to pay the extra kicker cost of 2. When Jace enters the battlefield, if you paid his kicker cost, you get to put a token of Jace onto the battlefield that's non-legendary, and his ability counters start at 1. You can +1 and scry 2, or you can pay 0, draw a card, reveal it, and remove a number of loyalty counters equal to the card's converted mana cost. Now, I haven't done too much playtesting with this guy, but I promise you there's somebody out there that knows how they're going to draw their whole deck with this guy. I can guarantee that. Alright, just a few things in green I feel like we need to touch on. The first one, Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, and then we have the Ancient Green Warden. Ashaya's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, and then she's also going to make each creature you control a forest land in addition to their other types, non-token creatures. And then the Ancient Green Warden, he is just a Mod Podge of good abilities. He is a 6 mana 5/7 with reach, and you may play lands from your graveyard, and then if a land entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So Ashaya, she's going to be really good in either the 99 or a potential commander. I could see that happening. And then the Ancient Green Warden is just going to make a spot in just about any landfall deck, I would imagine. Okay, we're getting ready to wrap this up with our multicolor creatures, and we have a couple to look at. The first one being Omnath, Locust of Creation. The big booger is back and he has picked every color but black this time. Whenever Omnath enters the battlefield, we just get to draw a card, which is good, but it keeps going. Whenever we play our first land each turn, we get to gain 4 life. Whenever we play our second land for the turn, we get to add 4 to our mana pool. Whenever we play the third land each turn, Omnath is going to deal 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker we don't control. Omnath is a fan favorite, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few decks made with this guy. And last but not least, we have Aura Skyclave, the 4 mana 3/3 legendary cleric with lifelink. He also reads, when he or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric with less converted mana cost from the graveyard to the battlefield. Now, it wasn't but maybe a couple months ago that me and some friends were talking about what cleric tribal might need to become a little more viable, and I think this guy definitely fills that spot. I don't think clerics are going to be like a high tier commander deck by no means, but this is definitely going to make them more playable and more fun. Well, okay, we did it. That is what I consider to be some of the best commander cards in Zendikar Rising. What do you guys think? Did I get it pretty close? Did I miss something? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you guys made it this far into the video, consider dropping a like or maybe even a sub. I would appreciate it. Thank you guys.